everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. Session 2 of our Data Quality Academy in partnership with the amazing team at TimeXtender. I think the session last week was probably my favorite session of the year so far. So there's a bit of pressure on Adam and Mel to follow up today and make today as equally as exciting. The thing that I've loved in working on this idea with TimeXtender, it's the first time we've ever done a course of this nature, and it's been really exciting and innovative talking with them about what they would like to do with the community. And the thing that I just want to call out at the very beginning, just as we're getting started, is it's really clear how much they care about what they're delivering to the community, about how to help people that are joining the webinar and overall make people better at working with data. In the preparation for the first session, obviously loads of time has gone into preparing the 4 weeks, pulling the content together, making all the slides, etc. But the bit that you probably don't see behind the scenes is, we've had a couple of meetings since the first session, preparing for the second session, and Mel in particular has been really like, okay, we're going to change this, we're going to add more of this, and really tweak it to maximize the value. And it's been really heartwarming. I'm not sure it's the right word, but it is what I felt actually. So that's been amazing with the team at TimeXtender. In terms of that, I will ask Mel and Adam, if you would come and join me on stage, and it will stop me from waffling on about having my heart warmed and stuff like that instead. So how are you both doing today? Are you having a good day so far?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. It's sunny here in Reykjavik, so enjoying a tropical heat.
We love that. This is your second time, Mel. What about yourself, Adam?
Doing really well, thank you. Yeah, excited to be here, and thanks for such a lovely intro. That was really nice. It's always
I'm just getting warmed up, Adam. I'm not finished yet. I'm not finished yet. There's a couple of bits definitely for me to call out. In terms of the running order for today, I think Mel and Adam will go through it. But the thing that really hit me with the last session was definitely interactive. It really felt like we were learning together, we were feeding back together, and today's the same sort of thing. So we're starting off with a bit of a recap, jumping into a couple of questions from the Q&A that we didn't quite get to last time to get things going, drilling into the details around data metrics and how you measure data quality. And then we're going to be weaving in, I say we, this is the royal we, Mel and Adam are going to be weaving in Miro boards. They're going to be weaving in real use cases of real world situations and how we've, how TimeXtender have solved them. And then we're going to have scenarios where there's the opportunity for those in the webinar to actually have a think and be like, how would I approach this? And almost as a team, as a community, talk this through and work through how we're going to do it. In terms of that, the other bit that I do need to call out, the TimeXtender team have been very generous with their trial. There is the plan to offer a 2-week trial of the TimeXtender product to the people that are coming along today. In terms of that, stick with us, and more of these details will be announced about how you get access to them, as well as about how you get your certificate for completing the course. In terms of that, if you're happy, Mel, I'll maybe stop sharing my screen and hand over to you.
Absolutely.
Just something that I can see there's a few comments in the chat already. Oh, lovely. We've got an audience. We love that. We love that. Let me give a couple of shout outs. So Eloise, thank you. Thanks for joining us. Mark joining us from Bristol, Favina, Duvry, joining from Harrow, lovely part of the world. We have Paddington, Manish from India, welcome. Another couple from India, closely followed by North Finchley, which is a mile away from India. Southend, be lovely to be on the beach. The Swiss mountains, the list goes on. So thank you for jumping straight into the chat. Thank you for letting us know that we've got an audience. And absolutely keep that energy. I know, Mel, you were particularly uplifted, weren't you, after the last session when we had fun. We had fun.
Oh, yes.
So I will maybe get you to share your screen, Mel, and then when we're happy with that, we'll get out the way. We've got a global audience. Several from Holland have just pipped into the chat at the same time there. We love that.
There we go.
Amazing. The slides are looking great, Mel. I'll turn my video off, but I'll be watching along in the background, and I hope you have a great session.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks for that lovely intro, David. Okay, let's take it away, Adam. Before we introduce who's newly on that session and we get to the very details of what you can expect today, we will have our traditional minute of silence. It's a kind of a quality aspect that we take in our company whenever there's some important meetings or sessions going on. A minute to land and focus, a minute just for your thoughts, and we would start this right away. And the minute is over. Thank you so much for everyone joining a bit later and asking why are there two hosts of this webinar or of this session that have their eyes closed. It's our minute of quality and focus before every important meeting or session. So I hope you could land and focus your thoughts. And here we are, talking about the issues you wish you wouldn't have. And with me today is lovely Adam. And since you're new to the team, I would love you to introduce yourself just quickly.
Thank you, Mel. Yeah, just as you're doing that, there's a plane coming overhead. What the timings of these things, you couldn't make it up, could you? I hope you can hear me okay. Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Adam Rudd. I'm one of the solution specialists here at TimeXtender. I've been with TimeXtender since October last year, so still reasonably new to the team. And yeah, I've been working for the last, oh, do I say the real number of years? No, I won't. I'll just say a long time, many years, despite this youthful complexion that you see before you, in the telecoms space, nearly 20 years. Yeah, data quality is something that I've come across a number of times and had to deal with. And so, yeah, being able to share with you today some aspects of data quality that I've encountered and how TimeXtender helps to overcome them is an absolute pleasure. So yeah, really good to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So I will talk you through what you can expect from the next few minutes or 2 hours. We will have first a little bit of a session of a recap of the first session. And by the way, before I start, thank you so much for all the lovely new LinkedIn connections. I never had such a great amount of requests after a meeting or a session. So thank you so much. It's so lovely to connect with you all. And I also had, in fact, some lovely talks already with a few of you. Thank you so much. So we will do first a session of recap. We have planned this a little bit interactive, a kind of a podcast thingy where we will just bounce some ideas back and forth. It's really great. And then I will talk to you about the data quality indicators and measures. So it will be a part theory where I give you the tooling at hand, where you can basically elaborate of how well your data quality is at the moment and what you can do to improve it. Also, that's kind of a teacher's trick, right? If somebody asks something in the session before, you say, oh, actually that I have planned for the next session, but that was not a trick that was actually planned before. So I hope you believe. And then Adam will actually talk us through a real use case that he encountered in his daily business before. And then we walk you through some user stories and have a Q&A session at the end. All this will be joined by the Miro board, and we will have some interactive sessions, some chats thing that we ask you to answer. So feel free to, again, use the Q&A session or throw everything in there that you would like to see. Also, still want to remind you that these sessions are highly dependent on your feedback. So we have changed a few things already in this session, but then, of course, would leave it up mostly for the last sessions that you can shape it a little bit or bring some ideas. We got some wonderful ideas already, and this will be great. So please feel free to put something in the chat. But then, recap of the last session. So Adam, I wanted to ask you just before, and in your daily life, dealing with this kind of, data quality topics all the time, what would you say have you been encountering? Like, how is your experience? How did you handle data quality in your former job?
Do you know what? I liken data quality a little bit to fitness, right? It takes a long time to build up and no time at all to lose. It's one of those things that's kind of hard fought for and easily lost, because when you are pushing out reports to your business users and there's a problem with them, it doesn't take very long for that mistrust to creep in. And like I said, it takes a long time to kind of get back. And it's almost a bit like, if you've ever bought like a big screen TV, like 80-inch TV or something, and then there's the one dead pixel, that's all you can really focus on. And that's generally, I think, what people tend to do anyway, despite the overwhelming features of this amazing panel TV in front of you, you can't take your eye off of the dead pixel in the corner there, and it somehow just ruins the enjoyment of the experience for you. So yeah, it's I've encountered quite a lot of problems, and you have to work quite hard, quite honestly, to make sure that there aren't data quality issues, and be proactive, put lots of controls in place. And as I said, I worked for a telecoms business the last 18 years, excuse me. And the thing about telecoms is it operates on a subscription basis, right? So you've got lots of different kind of billing conditions going on. You would have, for example, your rental billing that is billed in advance, or your airtime, and then you would have your calls and your texts that are kind of billed for in arrears. And usually that kind of ticks over quite happily. But then you get customers who are paying monthly, and then they decide that they actually want to pay for the rental part annually. So it's fine. That's absolutely no problem. So someone goes into their ERP or the subscriber management system, and they change the customer to annual, but then they don't actually invoice them. They forget to invoice from where they left off their monthly bill to the next year. So they've got like a bill to date of a year in the future. And when that month actually comes around, they're then billed for the next year. So you've got this huge gap of a year where your customer's getting free service and your business is missing out. And it's super important to be able to spot those before it's too late, because anyone looking at the ERP system, for example, would say, oh, hey, it's an annual account and we're not due to bill them again until next year. So the chances of picking this up are just that. They are chance encounters. And so really having effective data quality controls where you can say, okay, I want to report on every customer's bill to date and match that against what we've actually invoiced for, to make sure that you're filling those gaps. And that plays into some of the other metrics that we have as well. Like if anyone's ever seen any of our demonstrations at TimeXtender, we focus a lot on how many sales we've done, for example. So we'll have all these really nice dashboards and graphs, and as a lot of businesses do, they look at their sales figures. But there's another element of data quality where how do we know that the amount that you're saying that you've sold has actually been invoiced for? How do we know that the business has got that revenue in? And so I've certainly worked a lot over the last few years of putting these kind of measures in place that track to make sure that all of the kind of revenue that gets billed is accurate against what we say we've actually sold. But what about you, Mel? So I mean, you are a former Exmon, and to anyone who doesn't know about Exmon, they were the business that was acquired by TimeXtender in 2023. And they are very much the pioneers of data quality and governance and what have you. So you must have seen quite a few unique use cases, I'd imagine, going into businesses. And I'm curious to ask you what your experience has been, whether they come to you and they say, look, we know we've got this problem, but we don't quite realize the extent of it, or are they the other end where they kind of don't agree that they have any data qualities whatsoever? And how did you find that?
Unfortunately, rather the last, right? Nobody likes to admit that they have a problem with data quality, but there, that's the thing. I mean, it's mostly just a side question on a bigger data project you have, right? And then when you start looking into it, you see, okay, these things are inconsistent, so that's where we need to have another eye or look on, or another process to do it. So it's mostly just detected somewhere along the way, and then it's often already too late or has already costed too much money. So that's mainly the thing. So it's rarely somebody that contacts us and say, I have a data quality problem, please help me solve it, right? So it's always kind of an nice side effect of some other things that go wrong. So but then it's also when we get them going with it, and when we get them look into their data quality and think about the different dimensions or things they're missing, then it's hard to stop them, right? So they then come up with all different kinds of ideas, and could we not also control this or that? So it kind of takes a little time to shift the mind, but once it's there, it's actually really pleasant. And they then, as I said last time, also can go across different departments, right? So we're not talking about boring, checks if you have just a missing customer address, but then it goes on to, hey, let's send out an email before somebody's birthday, or let's send out an email when there's an event a week before, just things like that. So that's crazy. That's really good.
I suppose it must be the case that a lot of businesses, like you said, unless they know that they've got a serious problem, they're probably a little bit stubborn and maybe think, oh,
Yes,
absolutely don't have that,
absolutely.
but,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
not
that's the
realize
thing.
that actually you do have these problems, but there's a
Yeah.
guy in the back who's actually there trying to fix it so that you don't actually experience them.
Exactly, exactly. And we have chosen two things to discuss in particular. Please don't be afraid if for yours one is not here. We will definitely come back to it either later today or then in the next session. But one interesting question was how would you ensure that the postcode, for example, is valid and corresponds to the street address? So Adam, can you share some light on this? Like shed some light on it? What could be an
Yeah, I
interesting?
mean, what you would want for this kind of situation would be a compare query, right? And you can use any number of tools for that. Spoiler alert, we have one of those, just putting that out there. So part of our data quality toolkit includes the ability to create compare queries, which is, as you probably expect, one side is one system and one side is another system. We compare the differences and write them out. And so, but you could use any number of tools for this, even Excel, for example, right? So I would get a list of, or some kind of export of all of your postcodes and street names from your ERP system, your building system, whatever that would be. And then I would cross-reference that by comparing against, yeah, in the UK, for example, on ONS, the Office of National Statistics, they can give you an export, like CSV export of every postcode in the land. And then it's just about creating the right rules to compare that data against. So obviously in the UK, there's yeah, every postcode is what it's 7 characters, but you can have different delimiters, so the structure of it might be a little bit different or a little bit difficult to try and track because you could have the first 3 letters might be populated, or in some cases it'll be the first 4 or only the first 2. But you could take a subset of that. So you could say, right, all of the postcodes need to match the same street name, and you just remove from the front. And at least that way, you're going to get some certainty around accuracy for those postcodes. Now, without it being manual, really depends on the tool that you use. If you're going to use something like Excel, it's going to have manual interaction required to do those checks, or at least remembering to go in and run whatever formulas or kind of power queries that are sitting behind it. Or there's a more automated way of doing it using a tool that is kind of fit for that purpose or designed for that purpose, where you can monitor it over time. So yeah, that would be my response to that.
And interestingly enough, there was a lot of discussion about typos, right? So how do you prevent typos? So if you would, by any chance, you live in Reykjavik 105, but you would put in 505. So is there any solution to that, or is this just a human error and there's no way to tackle these kind of issues?
It's kind of part of the human condition, isn't it? That you that typos, yeah, we all do it. We all make mistakes. We're all human. I think the difficulty is where the alternative typing results in a valid product. So if you had, 505, which equals product 1, and then you've got 050, which is also another product, that can be harder to spot. Versus one of those codes not actually relating to anything. But in that case, I would just do something similar where you would join based on multiple conditions. So, where the product that should be entered, which is 500, doesn't equal that description, that you have maintained in some kind of master data record or golden record.
You can quite basically cross-reference it, right? So that you check always if it is a 505, it should map that city name, and if there's some inconsistency, you could flag it basically. Okay, super. Then we're going to the second one. It's the thing about the portfolio, and of course, it's always a question: where do you take, where do you start? And Adam had actually a great answer to this, so please share it with us, Adam.
Well, the answer to this one, dear attendees, is you're already doing it. You've taken 2 hours out of your busy work weeks to be here with us today, and hopefully you were at the previous one, and hopefully we'll see you at the next ones. And so, with that, you will be getting a new shiny sticker or badge and certification that shows that you were part of this academy, and you can put that on your social media and be very proud in doing so. And that's a large part of it. It's about raising awareness about what you are doing and how important that is to the wider community. And we'll talk a little bit later on about how important awareness is, especially when it comes to data quality and the visibility of it within a business, for example.
Yes, we do. And then also, of course, it's always a question what source to trust or not. So we work a lot with this book. You cannot see it, but it's basically the data management book of body knowledge. So it's a very, very big book. So you wouldn't take this as a holiday lecture, maybe. But there are a lot of non-profit organizations and vendor independent organizations out there. Like I could, for example, do a certification in this DEMA International, or with this DEMA International company. So there is a lot of good stuff out there. So if you find something, or if you want to get into the topic much more, then please feel free to contact us. We have a lot of course, good overview, and also vendor independent associations that you can get the certifications from. So that's very recommendable also. But getting to the first type of kind of a little bit of a theoretical part, are you ready for it? Do you want to see some metrics and indicators? Send me a quick reaction.
Yes. Here we go.
Good. See some hands going up. That's fantastic. Okay, great.
Love these reactions.
Wonderful. Me too. Me too. It's very, very nice. So we sent you an exercise here email, and they, of course, do have a thought behind. So we were, telling you to look a little bit into your definition of customer, product, service, really everything that belongs for you to a master entry or to a master data entry. And you ask several persons along the line, how do you define it and what attributes are mandatory, and ask also the question why, right? And if you get different answers or inconsistent definitions, that really is that shows that you have kind of an inconsistent understanding of your master data, and also that this can of course cause reporting and operational errors. So that's a good way to spot if you have a data quality issue or not. And also if inconsistent answers in regards to mandatory attributes, they can cause a lot of missing data standards or things, or can be the reason of missing data standards, or incomplete records can affect your processes. So that's really a way to start the conversation and look at it. And when we talk of if an entry is unique, you will hear today a little bit something about the uniqueness and how you can measure it. But that also means then that this uncovers whether you have clear rules or tools in place to maintain the uniqueness in your data. And what happens if you discover a mistake? So you should be aware of, if you find any data mistake, where to go to. It shouldn't necessarily always be the data engineers. You will hear something later about this, but it should really give you an understanding if you have a well-defined process in your company or not. Gail last week has been talking about the dimensions of data quality, and I would really like to quickly run you through each one of the dimensions, give you also a benchmark of what is an appropriate percentage of how healthy your data is in each of these key dimensions. And just for each one, I would like to give you like one real life scenario that I have seen within our customer base that we came across. After two of the sections, we just take a minute, we go to the Miro board, and I would ask you to just quickly post a post-it if you have, any data quality error that you see or mistake that you see in one of these key dimensions. So just post it there and have a quick look. But I will show you now quickly how this looks like. We have rearranged the Miro board a little bit so you feel you can see this a little bit better. So all the things that we're doing today are marked with a little bit brighter orange. So, this is the things we will have today. And first two data dimensions I will be talking about is the completeness and the consistency. So after these two, we will take a short break. You can quickly grab a post-it and then basically just add it here. I will quickly also send that into the chat that we all can go and see this, and send it to everyone. Here we go. And then we just take a quick stop after each of the 2 dimensions, and then I will ask you to quickly take a minute, think about it. If you have a good example, post it there. This will also help us then going further in that topic. So when we look at completeness, that's the first one, and one of the simpler ones, right? We start easy. It's just to which degree all required data is present. And that, again, does not mean 100% of your data, but the one that is important. So stuff that we see is just text fields that are empty, for example. Often we see in the process that, when you create a customer as a lead, for example, you just want to get it quickly in there, but you might not have all the required field. You might not have an email yet, or you might not have a title yet, or whatever is necessary then for further processing. So just hack it into the system or put it in, and then it's basically, it sits there. It should still be you should still be able to do that entry or to create the data entry, but it might not be complete. So at the moment, when you want it to be complete because you're processing the data and you need it for certain reasons, you want to put a check on it to see if some mandatory fields are missing. I have some indicators of percentage. Is very often we do this with percentages of all mandatory fields are populated. First of all, you need to know which field should be mandatory, and that's a whole other story, right? Then you can have the number of records that are missing these critical or mandatory fields, or you can take the ratio of complete versus incomplete records. So there's a lot of way of put the percentage on it, or just a number on how healthy the data is at this moment. It can be, you can have some measurement example, monitor the proportion of your customer profiles with all required contact, look at the mandatory fields for your master data entries and check them in regards of completeness, or track the number of sales orders that don't have a delivery address, right? So things are not ending up at the right places. And when we look at the benchmark, of course, that's a very sensitive topic because benchmark are highly dependent on the industry. Also, they are often changing when you talk about banks or insurance companies. They have a different benchmarks, but it is basically just gives you an indicator of what it should be. The completeness should actually really be close to 100%, especially for the master data that is relevant for you. When we look at the consistency, it's the degree to which data should be uniform across various systems or different data sets or system. There would be a good example. It's actually a technical example, but we often see that when in our customers, when they have a certain loads into their tables and they join them incorrectly, that all of a sudden they end up with double the row amount of in the table. So we would constantly check if the table has approximately the amount that is expected of rows, just to make sure that they are not that is consistent, that this data source has almost the same amount or an approximate amount of rows. So to make sure that they have not been any technical error when we joined the data sets together. So that's something that we very, very often see at this point. And when we look at the numbers again, you can basically check the numbers of records which conflict information, right? When you have this kind of a different rows after loading data into different system, or a percentage of data that you have a standardized format that should be like a post-like code that has a certain amount of characters, and then frequency of reconciliation between integrated system. So there's all kind of measures that you could put on there. And again, some examples is just regular cross checks to identify customers that have different names in different systems, or if the format, if the date of your the format of your data is really as you wanted it, so in the right basically format. For the consistency, the benchmark is lower in general, so that it's not as important, or it's not as hurting the business as it is for the completeness. But still, you want to have a high benchmark on that for, of course, all the obvious reasons. So after this tour, we will do a quick 1-minute break, or a bit longer maybe. I would ask you to log into the Miro board that I have posted in the chat. Adam, can you see it? Did I?
I can. It's very active in there. It's great.
Okay, good.
Lots of movement going on.
Then we take the first two, please, only the completeness and consistency. And I will just have this on the screen. How we go? Bit of interaction going on, right? While you're so actively posting things here, also to the left-hand side posted the picture of what you have been answering last session, right? Which dimension is the biggest challenge? And I think we covered already two of the ones that had gotten a lot of emojis here, like completeness and consistency. So there seems to be a lot of challenges at the moment with this, or already that you see in your company with these two dimensions. So we have it, right here also if you want to just explore the mirror board a bit
as well. There's loads for accuracy, right?
Exactly. But we will give you at the end of all the dimensions also a coffee break time to just think about it. So it takes quite a process to elaborate what exactly fits to which dimension, or well, and it's always great when you get some first examples, so what's yes could be there. So when we talk about the accuracy, which is then on the second board that for today, that's one that is hardest to track. I mentioned it briefly last time also, because you always need to kind of have another data source that you trust, that you can validate it against, right? So one of the things we do often in Iceland is we access the business registry, right, where you know which one is a valid business. So if you sell something, you really can make sure that this is a trusted company and it's registered in the national registry of all the businesses. So we kind of validate it against that a lot, or the customers that we can basically validate against the national registry. So there's a lot of things that you can get and the data from. Also, Adam has mentioned in the beginning, right? You want to maybe access the postal codes or things like that. So you need to be a bit creative when it comes down to accuracy with which data source you would like to compare the data entries against. Again, it's a percentage, so you can have the percentage of the business that are registered in the registry and see it as a basically matching the trusted source, right? Where you have 100% accuracy there, or you can have an error rating in critical fields like product codes that are not correct, or misspelled names, or wrong postal codes. All things that are really, really important to you and your business. Examples would be just regularly compare the customer addresses in your CRM, or audit a sample of transactions and just see how accurate they are. The benchmark there is also in the middle, I would say 95 to 99 of what we've seen before with completeness, and but it's a hard one to do and a hard one to crack, but it's certainly a very important one also. It goes together with the timeliness on our board. Timeliness, I found a funny picture when I was looking for that. So, its degree to which data is up to date and available. And of course, this can be very different. And that is why I took this example, right? The one that orders the pizza at the place, it's only for him, it's only important that he makes the call, and then it's basically 2 hours of that time until he basically gets the pizza, or however long the delivery takes. So for him, it's basically making the call, getting the pizza. That's all that's relevant in regards of timeliness. But for the ones that are actually working at the pizza shop, it has a lot more, right? So they need to make sure that they deliver on time, that they put it on the right time in the oven. So it's highly dependent on where you stand in the data process of what timeliness means. And when we look at the things that are often done with our customers, basically, maybe, of course, companies that work with stock exchanges or so, it's extremely important that they get the newest exchange rate when the stock opens. But then for the rest of the day, it doesn't matter anymore. So you need to define really when does the relevant data need to be available for the relevant persons in the company. And that might be very, very different from where you're looking at. Again, you can have, an average lag between a real world event and the update. So you see, how much time is lost in between, or a percentage of records that are updated within the time frame, right? You want, for sending out the invoices, your finance team doesn't need the data in the beginning of the month when they send it out in the middle, like 15th every month, but they need to have it by that time. So you also need to make sure that you understand the time frame for when this data is needed, in which department. You could do, take these measurements there, where you take the time from a customer order when it appears in the central system where it's actually needed, or track how often monthly reports are delayed because there is something missing and you need to basically go back and fill it in again. So there are, various measures that you can put on when it goes to the timeliness and the benchmark key is really high, because that's very essential, right? So you want to have the data available when you need it, else you don't care about it, like Adam said in the beginning with the reporting that you do once a year, right? But then it needs to be accurate and it needs to be there, and it cannot just be lay low until the end of next year, because then you end up in the same trouble again. So these two are also find their place on the Miro board. If you go a little bit to the right-hand side, you see, oh, I see a lot of nice things, stars and errors. Very nice. Already been very busy.
These are great.
Cool. I love that. I've never seen that before. Didn't even know you can do it. Okay, give you a bit of time to, add some things here for accuracy and timeliness. Adam, do I say this correct? Accuracy, or is it accuracy?
No, you got it. Yeah, perfect. Nailed it. Yeah. I mean, I really want to know what that phone call was about on the timeliness one for the pizza. I mean, we said that they ordered at 11. That's when the call started. We don't know when it ended. He could just been on the phone for 2 hours and then went, oh yeah, I forgot the guy wanted a pizza, and then actually put the order through.
Exactly, and there is where the importance goes then, right? When he already forgot that he has ordered a
prioritize.
pizza. Exactly. So thanks for showing me all these nice forms. I have learned something today, after all. Thank you so much. And then we crack on with the last two. One of Geert already very well covered in the first session is validity. So you have defined business rules or formats that you want to stick to, and you need to make sure that your data mirrors the validation rules, the business rules that you have set in place, right? And one thing that we often do here is we have some reference tables. So, we have basically a list of all the city and country codes that we then reference and make sure that it conforms to the 4-digit, or it just conforms to the business rules. We set that, for example, that we don't give out the discount more than 20%. So it's also actually often that we take the business rules and translate them into a data quality rule to spot these kinds of things. There are, technically, or when we talk about data types, it's often very simple because you have it on the source already, right? That it needs to be a number type or a text field or string or however you call it there. But when it comes into the business rules, it's very often just something that the business users don't have any visibility or cannot track well. So you can actually create this on top of that for the business users also. Again, it should be a percentage of record that passed this validation check. When we say all of our employees should have 20 days off at least a year, we should do checks against it, right? And see how many of these passed. Number of failing records for the business rules goes in the same direction. Or then how often the data is rejected during an input because it actually has not the data format that is asked. So it kind of gives a lot of understanding of how well the validity is in your company. Then you can, if we want to have some concrete examples, it could be like phone numbers that have a validation rule, right? And monitor the failure rate because somebody put in too few characters, or track the number of transactions that are blocked because somebody wanted to just spend a lot of money that they didn't have the budget for, or things like that. So there are all different kinds of measurement example on that one. The benchmark also should be as high as possible, because that's something that again hurts your business if it doesn't comply your business rules.
And these are really simple things as well. Like sometimes the simplest of validations can prevent the biggest of the problems, right? So even just thinking about phone numbers, like if it's a UK phone number that's a mobile number, making sure that it has the +44, or that it starts with a 7, doesn't have the preceding 0, that kind of stuff. That's very easy to implement. And especially for email, I mean, we see this a lot with people who have email addresses but aren't doing any kind of validations because they're hard to validate. So they might have 2 @ signs, or they don't have any dots, or they end with a dot, or there's certain structures that kind of field needs to have that are quite easy to check and help prevent a lot of these bigger problems, especially when it comes to like invoicing and making sure that they're valid. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Then the last one is uniqueness. So that's actually just a pretty self-understanding thing. It's just a record should be uniquely represented. I often bring the example of names in Iceland, right? There are not very many names in Iceland, I feel, and everyone is called a little bit the same. So it's either Gunnar or Guðmundur or any of these names. And then they also have the surname that is actually or like a prefix of the, of the surname. And then the last name is Dottir or son. So you might have a lot of Gunnar's son also. So how do you make sure that this one is the right one you're talking to, right? And when we talk about records in the database, often this is the unique key, right, that takes care of that. And you need to make sure that this is consistent and you have it implemented. You can check the number of duplicate records that you detect when you map it with a key. You can, have a duplicate rate per 1,000 records. That's something that's fairly easy to spot. With duplicate checks on customer lists, or monitor the rate of duplicate invoice numbers. So a lot of things can be detected fairly easily with that. But also this really, really hurts if you have not unique entries in your system. So that's something that often also when it's not completeness, it's uniqueness where we start the conversation, right? Like with the exercise where we wanted to point out what makes an entry unique. That's often something that we look at.
And just on that point, really quickly, the uniqueness or the lack of uniqueness plays into the accuracy dimension as well, because you in that example, Melanie, where you've got two very similar sounding first names and surnames, if you haven't got the ability to accurately depict which one is which and identify which one is which through the uniqueness, then you could be sending out somebody else's personally identifiable information, like healthcare records, financial information, to the wrong person with the same name. So yeah, one dimension impacts the other. So yeah, super important.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. That's a very good input. And just in regards of time, I will quickly have a summary for you, and then we would anyway leave for the coffee break, where you then can go all wild with the Miro board. So stick with me for that one. I just quickly put up the typical benchmark target. Again, it's highly depending on the industry. Also, it's almost impossible to strive for 100% in all the dimension. And as we see, many organizations take this like Pareto principle of 20% of the issues that cause 80% of the problem, right? And don't know if you knew, but Pareto was actually an Italian economist that in the late 19th century, he found out that 20% of the Italians, they owned 80% of the whole wealth or of the whole money in Italy. And then he started to just, kind of prove this concept over and over again. And that's why it's called the Pareto principle. But it actually goes very, very well for a lot of things. And especially also when we talk about data quality, targets or benchmarks is if you have the 20% of the most important records covered, you take care of a lot of issues there. And be aware, please, that you are regularly review it and adjust it and measure it. And that also, if you call yourself an expert in the business, you do this basically regular. So that's not something you do today and then you stop, but you really want to stay on it, and especially while it's improving, right? You have a lot of like good feedback when you see that the data quality gets better and better during the work you invest. We would have a break, and you could check out the Miro board. I would also ask you to look at the question that is here below. Just, for the recap for the next session, would be very interesting for us to understand what are the biggest challenges you face in understanding where the data comes from and how it's processed, if there are any, right? But that's a huge question, or a huge thing that we see, that a lot of the persons in a company do not have a good understanding on this. So it would be really interesting for us to see how you answer that question. So we would take a 10-minute break, and would just ask you to have a look at the Miro board, take a coffee, and just roam free until we meet back again.
And we'll see you in 10.
Hello and welcome back. Especially glad to see you again, Adam, because the next part I would be lost without you.
I've been completely forgetting that we're in a webinar. I've just been staring at the Miro board. It's been fascinating.
Interesting. I also saw
responses.
a very interesting Q&A question that I would actually like to take now, because it's kind of just fitting the topic that we're in so far. And there was actually somebody asking if validity includes questions around unit errors or formatting error. So do I not understand this correctly, Adam, that I would say it's both, right?
Yeah.
You wanna also check if, for example, a weight is registered in the right unit, right, in pounds or in kilo, just to make sure that the value is accurate. So I think it's very tied to accuracy, but still it belongs to the validation rule if you have chosen the right currency or the right unit in that regards.
Exactly. I mean, I always get told off in the Brit with our weird kind of imperial measurement system still whenever I speak to our kind of European colleagues. And I got told, funnily enough, in a session not too dissimilar to this, where we were using Miro boards, and I said, oh yeah, this is so X amount of feet in terms of distance, and I got absolutely destroyed for not using meters.
Okay. Nobody can understand that, right? It's not.
No.
Okay, I see you've been very busy in the mirror board, which is nice to see. And we do not have the time now to check everything, but I would actually love to then for Gunnar for the last session to have a look over it, and maybe you touch upon some things also in the next session, Adam, together with Geir. So absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for all the interesting inputs, and we for sure come also back then to the question that are posted below. I see you have been very, very active in answering that also. But just in regards of time, I would love for you to have enough time for your case. I'm so excited to hear this, Adam. So if I stop my sharing and you take it away, that would be just amazing.
Okay. And let me find. There we go. Just let me know when you can see that.
I do see it. Super.
Excellent stuff. Okay, well, as Melanie mentioned, and with Geir in the last session, we have in our TimeXtender use case catalog the story of Vodafone Iceland, who were experiences some challenges that TimeXtender helped them to overcome. And coming from a telecoms background, that's something that I could really resonate with, because I was that guy who at month end would be responsible for closing out all of the month end processing, doing a lot of reconciliations and working a lot of late night hours. So I'm no stranger to the kinds of problems that can come up, and I feel your pain for all of the finance people out there who experience these problems that are not of their doing, but usually caused by someone else. And what I want to do today is just talk through a use case, a real use case with a legacy ERP system, very bespoke in nature. And it starts off at the month end closing with the dreaded NA, the hash NA. Now, anyone of my finance people, or anyone here who's been using Excel for any amount of time, you will be intimately acquainted with this error, which is where something doesn't match, whether it's a query or a lookup, there's just some kind of field discrepancy. And in this case, we have one, and we can look at all of our open items. We're doing our month-end closing. We can see all of the amounts that are supposed to be outstanding, and that matches what we have our credit controller ledger showing as well. And we can see that these totals all match, yet still we have this difference. And we can see there with the customer names, some of which may look vaguely familiar but had to be changed for legal purposes. For the purpose of this webinar, they are obviously missing a record, and in this case they are missing Oxford Instruments, which was my personal favorite. And we can see, okay, right, we've got this problem, this ledger reconciliation, it can't go forward. We need to know what's going on and what we're going to do about it. And so we go look up Oxford Instruments in the ERP system, and everything looks fine. We don't understand what the issue is. We can see that all of the fields have been filled out. We've got good formatting. The validation looks like it's done its job. But wait, hiding behind the advanced feature is a field called controller. And that controller field is crucial. And it's crucial because without it, we don't have the visibility of that customer on the credit control ledger. And we can see we're using one of TimeXtender's data enrichment instances to help us with this, just to preview this data. And we can see we've got all of our customers in there, but the one that's missing, the one that's highlighted in blue, doesn't have a controller code. So we now know, okay, we can't close our month end out. We have an imbalance. We know what's caused the imbalance, where the issue is, but now someone has to fix it. And this is where you get on the phone late at night, you wake other people up because, you know, this person who's in finance doesn't necessarily know how to fix this or what the correct action should be. So who does this data quality issue affect? So firstly, it's affecting the MIS, or the management information systems, and the finance teams who can't actually close out their month end at the minute until that balancing error is found and resolved. You've got the credit controllers who are also impacted because they don't have accurate data showing them who owes the company money. So they don't know who to pick up the phone and chase. And that also means that they've got missed collection targets because they're not collecting the money. The company is affected because they are missing revenue from this customer who hasn't been called to say, can we have your money for the service we've just given you? And the missing customer is affected, although probably quite pleasantly, because they are getting free service out of this. So there you go, proof that maybe not all data quality issues are negative. This guy is actually getting a positive impact from it, receiving free service. Now, there is obviously a risk that other customers who learn about the fact that this company maybe can't get its act together, they're not on top of their accuracy when it comes to their internal invoicing processes, and that then introduces the reputational risk of the business beyond the wider audience. And the result of all of this is that we have poor data quality, which equals a lack of trust, like we were saying at the top earlier, about how important that is and how easy it is to lose once it's been gained. Now, we know who has been affected, but I want to ask, who should this data quality issue affect? And the answer in this case, well, it should be the user, the person who actually did it. But unfortunately, they are blissfully unaware of all of the issues that they've caused just by skipping over that hidden field within the advanced section when they created the customer. And they're probably at home getting, you know, a good solid 8 hours sleep right now, unaware of the fact that you've got MIS finance, maybe some back office data teams scrambling around trying to fix the issues that this has caused. And unfortunately, what that means is this person is likely to do this again. But is it really a big deal? Okay, so I'm going to play a little scenario here. Now, while we know that at the minute what we have is a telecoms company that's got a missing customer field, and the impact of that is that it's missing some revenue, there's some bottlenecked processes, there's some people working some long hours, eating terrible Chinese food and not getting a lot of sleep, and introducing the potential risk of bad reputation for the company. But what if this was a national hospital instead of a telecoms company? And what if instead of missing customer fields, we were missing patient fields? Well, the impact of that would be that potentially the wrong blood type gets entered onto that patient's medical record. It could be that there's a misdiagnosis for that patient, or that they are prescribed or administered the wrong medication. And of course, while we're not suggesting for a second that all data quality issues are created equal, some of them are clearly more severe than others, but it does highlight the importance of having those effective data quality controls, especially around the storing and compliance for GDPR and highly sensitive personally identifiable information. And so I just wanted to very quickly segue into one of TimeXtender's products, which is our data enrichment platform, because we've mentioned in the hospital scenario, and Melanie mentioned it earlier about the challenges of living in Iceland, where you have lots of people with the same name, for example, and being able to correctly identify people within something like a healthcare setting is where TimeXtender's data enrichment platform really comes into its own, because it allows you to govern, fine-tune, and enrich that business data into a single UI to ensure the security and scalability for core business data. And it does that by giving users a structured spreadsheet-like interface that we saw earlier with the missing record highlighted in blue. And that means that you can manage and enhance internal data sets and have a centralized environment for all of the important data that otherwise doesn't have a place to live. So think about these ad hoc data sets that are just in a SharePoint somewhere or in somebody's OneDrive. It's a good place to bring them all together in one tool, KPIs, forecasts, budgets, that kind of thing. And so data enrichment is a product offering that allows a simpler, more robust alternative to the likes of Excel, which can be ideal for teams that are yet to go the full hog for a full-scale data integration product. And I just really wanted to quickly show you how that would work in practice. So the data would be ingested from the various sources and go through the usual rules of ingestion at the data lake layer. It would land in our data warehouse, where any issues are flagged and notified to the relevant users. And then that gives the opportunity for them users to come into the data enrichment tool, make any modifications as necessary before our orchestration process then pushes that back out into the ingest path, back into the modern data warehouse with much cleaner data than before. So we found the problem, going back to our scenario, and now what we're going to do about it. Well, we need to start off by clearly establishing some goals and deciding what we want the desired outcome to be. And it's always good when we're doing that to start with the end in mind. And by doing so, we're always constantly evaluating along the way whether our solution, whatever we decide that to be, is going to meet our established goals. We have to decide what is being fixed. Are we going to fix the cause, or are we simply going to push the problem around? Now, fixing the cause in this instance would be stopping the user from going any further. But that could create its own problems. It could create bottlenecks in the sign-up process if that person doesn't know who this should be assigned to. Similarly, if we were to alert someone else that this user has created this problem or is regularly missing this field when they're signing up new customers, then we're not actually changing the behavior. We are just pushing the problem to someone else. We need to ask the somewhat overused expression, what does success look like and how will it be measured? Okay, how will it bring value? Will it bring value in whatever shape or form the solution looks like? And there's the very valid assessment of what doing nothing looks like. Okay, if you don't implement any data quality controls, what might this lead to? And is that outcome acceptable? Now, we could say, for example, okay, well, we need to update the training material to make sure that the person knows that they're doing the wrong thing. We need to have regular check-ins with that person to make sure that for all of the customers that they've signed up, that they haven't missed something. And you enforce regular refreshing of training. And now all of these are great ideas, but they do still operate on the basis of hope that they won't do this again, rather than a clearly managed, continuously monitored control that makes sure that they don't do that again. So in this particular scenario, what are our solution options? Well, the first thing we can do is we can go to the vendor and we can say, hello, Mr. Vendor, for this legacy bespoke system, we would like a change of the user interface or for a default field value. Now, I don't know what anyone's experience is of tradespeople within the UK. I don't know if it's just a UK thing or not, but if you have one of them come to your house with what they perceive as an expensive job, you're often met with a ooh kind of expression, and that expression is the indicator that you're about to part with a lot of money. Okay, and it's a similar situation when you're dealing with software vendors of legacy bespoke systems. When you say to them they want to change the UI, then the dollar signs are like the cartoon characters in their eyes. This is going to be an expensive endeavor, but let's just see this through, and we'll play it out and see what happens. So they're going to go away, they're going to scope the level of effort required, and they're going to come back with a quote. You'll then have to get that approved internally, get it signed off. It's going to go through one of your vendor's development cycles, which is usually several weeks long, before they pass it back for regression testing and user acceptance. And that is going to result in you having a very fixed solution based on what it is that you decided to implement with no flexibility. It's going to take weeks/months to implement. It's going to cost a bunch of money up front, and it's going to result in increased maintenance charges going forward to support that new feature. So the alternative would be to use something like a time extender solution. So what we would do in this scenario is we would use TimeXtender's data quality platform to query the ERP system on a schedule. And that could be nightly, weekly, monthly, at least monthly in this case, because we know this is a month-end issue. We would then add a rule to find any missing fields that we came across. We would notify the manager about this or the user. And that's a really powerful thing to be able to change that. So we could say initially, okay, we want everything to go to the department head and notify them that this user is doing this, but we really want to help people make the right decisions. And so we can change that rule to say, actually, I want to let the person who created the record know that they've done it so that they can take accountability and that they can fix it themselves, and hopefully drill into them the importance of this field and how they need to make sure it's populated in the future. This process is then going to have continuous monitoring that's automatically triggered, giving us a fully flexible solution with an implementation taking place the same day in mostly hours, sometimes minutes. And that's going to not attract any further cost or any increase in maintenance. So who wants to see it in action? What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my screen and I will share how we do this in TimeXtender. Can you all see that? Hang on a second. I'm not sure I'm actually sharing.
Yes. Yes.
You can see the right screen? Okay, great. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, so here we are in our data quality tool. So what I've got here, I've created a data set which has got a list of my billing customers coming from our data enrichment platform. So let's just click on that and we can quickly preview the data and we can see all of my customer records are in there. Okay, that's great. So what I would then do is I would go into rules and I will create a rule. And let's give this a name. Let's call this missing missing credit controller fields. We'll choose the data set that we want to connect to, which are billing customers. And very simply, I'm going to add a condition that says where the controller code is blank. Okay, let's preview that and see what records we get. And look, we have Oxford Instruments with their missing controller code. And so we're happy that has correctly found our problem. We'll then go and save that. And we can then go into the properties and say this field needs to be populated for every customer. And then what action do we want them to take when they receive this? Please add entry to this field. Now we can decide if we want to change the owner. So this could be, for example, the credit controller manager, or as I said, we can even map the user to any number of users that you've got in your Active Directory, a list of email contacts, or predefined manager roles there. We would click on save, and that is it. The job is done. and you saw how long that would take, but that would now continuously monitor that for exceptions. And as and when someone creates an ERP record and they don't fill in the requisite field, then they'll be notified it, hopefully take the corrective action and prevent all of that negative impact that we talked about earlier. Okay. So
Super good.
Let me just share my original screen back, because we are going to ask you all, when I find the share button again, here we go. There we go. Okay, so we're going to have a little break because we love a break. But during this break, what we would love to do is just leave you with a little scenario to think about. So given everything that we've discussed, we've gone through in the previous session, the kind of principles of data quality, and this session more the practicalities, and just been talking about there the rules and what have you. So in this scenario, we'd like you to think about what we might be able to put in place to fix it. And the scenario is that we have items that keep being sold despite them being out of stock, and it's causing all sorts of problems, all sorts of delay, bad reputation, etc. So given everything that we've discussed so far, we'd love you to have a think about that. And Melanie, do we want them to put this in the chat so that we can pull some of those out?
Yes.
Yeah, great. So if we could use the chat feature, please, just to throw in there some of your thoughts about what we could do, and we'll go take a break. I think we are breaking for 10 minutes, Mel, if I've got that right.
Yes, so what we actually want to do is we let you, maybe 5 minutes, grab a coffee, think about it, and then, post it in the chat. And then after maybe 5 minutes, Adam, you could change the slide, and we would just, post a link to a story lane thing, which is just very intuitive. You just open a link and you click through it just to see, how it would work in TimeXtender Data Quality. So that's what we do. But I could actually leave that up, Adam, then I can take over the management of the slides. Let me just quickly grab this. Presenter mode. So, can you see the screen coming up now?
Yep.
Okay, super, because then it's easy for you to monitor the chat. So again, we will take a 10-minute break, take 5 minutes to take a coffee, think of it, what process you would put in place, maybe answer it in the chat. And then after 5 minutes, we will change the slide, and you can, see in the chat, there will be a URL, and, you can just quickly click through to just see how we would solve it from our end. Okay, see you back in 10 minutes. Just asking the audience if they are ready to come back. And to see they have been very, very busy with the chat. It's so nice to see all these interactions and everything that's going on.
Amazing. Thank you for letting us all know that you're still here and being so active. It's really great to see the reactions and all the comments. It's very cool.
Okay. I don't know if we have the time or capacity to, sum it up what's in the chat. I don't know, Adam, if you want to just quickly point something out, or if we should take it then for next session or the Q&A.
I mean, we can definitely dive into it a bit more in the next one, but there's some really great responses, some great ideas, and there's always more than one way of doing something, right? I mean, I particularly like the kind of supply and demand one of raising the price. Yeah, that's quite unique. But yes, there is, some of you are completely aligned with what's in our story lane click through. So if you see that, if you want a minute there just to click through it, you'll see how we've implemented one of those in our product, and that'll be available for you to go back to if you haven't quite got there yet. So yeah, should we press on, Mel?
Yes, let's do that. Okay. So just when implementing this data quality rules from a perspective of, how we see it or how we have done it for now 2 decades almost, it's, it's first of all, we always think about, okay, we will have an easy way to connect to it, right? We need to connect to the data sources or warehouses. Important that you can connect to everywhere where you want to do the check, as we had last time, right? It's better to do it early. We heard from Geir, so this can save you a lot of money. But then it's not only about the connection, but you need to do much more with it, right? It's one thing to just get the access to data and flag these kind of issues, but they need to think to also and control it. And with data quality controls, there are a lot of good systems out there, tools that you can use it. But actually, what's a little bit special about ours, or what we took a lot of focus on, is the whole governance piece. So the ownership, and that's something that I wanted to share with you. Just a few thoughts on that. It doesn't make any difference if you just see it and know about it, but you also need to have a responsible person that is actually taking care of it. And we will have a very quick look at the mirror board and what we saw as Nancy's last time. But often this is quite a discussion that you start here, and needs quite a lot of thought behind who should be the owner of a data or not. We only internally just kicked off the process, where we basically define who is the owner of a customer, right? Who owns this? Is it commercial? Should it be finance? So it's that's a lot of thought, and it maybe depends on what purpose you need it. And then one big piece is also, the more you flag and the more you get these annoying emails or get any notification about records that you have been implementing wrong or created wrongly in the system with missing fields or incorrect addresses, all this kind of stuff, the better you get, because you just definitely don't want to get an email every evening telling you we have created 100 faulty customer records. So that's also, it has kind of an educational value on top of it also. And that's what I so love about how we do things. When we look at quality control specifically, at what Adam mentioned also before, especially when it's about the validation and correctness of the data or accuracy, we don't only have like simple queries for one source, but we can also query two different data sources and basically compare the values, right? If you want to have a price and see if your ERP system maps with the e-commerce system, the pricing, things like that. If your customer numbers match, or where you have differences between two systems. So that's something we use very, very often when we do quality checks. And then the other thing is data changes, right? So you can do a snapshot in time, and then you figure out if you have an invalid row number or a different row number, which is basically double the one that it should be. So you flag immediately when you have done something wrong in the technical implementation. So that's a lot of things that you can check with our controls. And when we look at the mirror board, just once again, here, last time we asked about, quickly go here, who's responsible for data errors that are found, right? And I try to map the journey a little bit from, oh, that's the wrong one. It takes that one. Let me just quickly see if I can grab, sorry. Well, I will show it then like this better. There must be at least one technical error in a presentation like this, right? And Adam is glad it's me, isn't it? I can get back to the thing. But anyway, we don't need this. I can also just quickly run you through. But what we see and also actually Gera and Adam will touch upon it again, it's that, that we have from who is responsible if something is detected from no one, from dedicated DJ teams actually, or from dedicated data owners where, for different data products. So that is, basically the way we want to go from, we have nobody and we don't know who to address this, to then the point where you actually have defined persons that are actually taking care of it, and also who to go to, and the business users also know it, right? It's not only about the engineers.
And also about it being about more than one person, right? Because we've all been there. We've all been the single person, the single point of failure that is so often found as well. That people just assume, okay, well, this is a data issue. It needs to go to the one person. But it's about broadening out that problem and making it more of a whole of business approach, or for at least for the responsible business area to also get involved in, rather than just kicking it back to the kind of data engineering or the back office teams. Oh, Mel, you're on mute.
Funny enough, that always happens when I switch the slide. Okay. But when you look at the pillars of the data governance, ownership is a big topic, and it's the one that also often comes last or gets forgotten, because the other ones might be a bit easier or might be more knowledge known. But ownership is a huge topic, and when we look at, the next use case that we try to solve is with that check that we did regarding the reordering of some items. Someone needs to take ownership of the problem that things are stocking out and reorder the items, right? And we need to flag all the items that we maybe stopped selling. So we might also be, when we first run this check, we see a lot of things that we actually don't sell anymore, so they don't care. So we want to flag this. So next time when we run the check, these items would be just left out. That's something that you can also do with our system. And then we want to also maybe assign someone to a dedicated person, so they basically clean up the Business Central piece. So if we are looking at that, we have some basically a way to do it. And I would just quickly share the URL with you. That's just really free to click through at any point in time. We call these notifications. So we basically just reassign a person to it. I just quickly maybe explain it to you while showing how it works. Dragging this over here. Tell me, Adam, if you can see this all right.
Yeah. Yep, that's it.
Exactly. So we have the opportunity in our solution that we basically can just describe anything that needs to be, when we create the rule, as you've seen before, we have a description to tell the user that's getting the email or the notification what is to do. So all items in BC we should reorder as they quickly less inventory, then the reorder point, and then also an action. And that's actually the most important piece, right? That you have an action, go to Business Central and fix it. Often when they use a solution that is web-based, we can also create a link. So it's very easy for the end user to just click on it and tidy it up. So that is basically how it's done in our system. And that's really a big piece of ownership and the thing where you can really address the things to the right persons. And then once this is done, basically, we can also then set some notification or change the notification settings. So at the moment, you can add email, but we have also custom webhooks. So you can basically implement it in your own ticketing system. You can flag not only the new, but all the existing ones. And when you save it and run it, then you basically get all the exceptions to your rule. And here you can see it. And then basically you can see how the email looks like, that the end user gets. And then there's kind of also an implemented ticketing system on our end. So you can see all the items that are open. You can drill into it and say, of these 22 things that we have seen, some of them might not be or might be products that we don't sell anymore. You can quickly go in and say, this is actually not an exception, but this is something that we would say that we don't sell anymore. So next time when the quality check is run, then it wouldn't spot this item specifically. And that's, of course, a very valuable thing. Or you can basically flag it as not an exception, or when you have some open ones that you cannot take care of, you can send it to whatever other person, and you can just assign it to a different one and tell them with a comment of how they should take care of it. And that's just a simple way of making this more intuitive and making it just the ownership more visible for these kind of errors. We had actually a very interesting Q&A question that I just wanted to take on that note, and it's about the business rules and their implementation. And I just quickly popped that up to go over it. So somebody was asking that I said errors such as incomplete numbers or could be avoided by implementing business rules. And if I then think that the data engineers or administrators did not do a good job by implementing them, because then they would prevent in databases that the quality problems arise. So that might have been my lack of or my German accent, or the way I phrase things, but that was absolutely not what I'm saying. What we just see is that business rules often change, or they come after an implementation, or they just take much longer time to basically be visible, than also for the data team. So we are, for example, have changed our partner program internally. So all of a sudden, the march is different, and then when you have a different margin and you flag that it should not be above an X percentage of or an X percentage number, then this can all of a sudden change. And then you have flagged it maybe in the database incorrectly, and the business rule might have changed, but you weren't aware of it, right? Because the business user have not necessarily thought that this could create this kind of an issue. So I absolutely didn't mean that by it. I just said, it's this had changed all the time. You don't want to, or you were not able to react on it maybe on a quick note. And Adam, if you have some more to say on it, I think that's just fair to say that's absolutely not the intention.
No, absolutely right. No, I think you've covered that off. Yeah, that was not the case at all.
Super good. We last time missed out to tell you the exercises beforehand because the Q&A section was a bit long, so I wanted to take the chance. Last time we asked you more to just look into the data dimensions and some questions that could flag out certain issues there. But this time we would just give you these 3 points. So identify something that you have spotted, and I know we have done a lot of pre-work today. Inaccurate sales figures, some missing records, missing addresses, just everything in your organization. And then just map for yourself out the journey, right, of this data. So where did it originate? What processes did it go through? And that's a lot of work, and it's a lot of thought that needs to go into it. But it's essential if you want to make sure that an error doesn't occur again and again, to understand where, of course, the source lays and where it goes through the process. And then also important to understand where it has the most effect, right? And then consider what tools could help you to trace this accordingly. And that's not anything we want an answer, it's just some kind of an exercise that we give you on your way, and that should just help start the discussions when it goes to data quality and things like that. That's it from our end, and we would actually go to the Q&A sector. I would ask David to maybe join us again.
I am back, although I don't think you need me. This has been a very, very professionally run show. I feel like you guys could cover it all off. No problem. Thank you again. Like, before we get into the questions, I have really enjoyed the session, much like everybody else joining along. So I would ask, if you don't mind, a little thank you into the chat, perhaps, or a little emoji here and there. It's nice to know that people at home have enjoyed it. I could even send a little heart myself if I wanted, didn't I? It's really weird. What is it about these emojis? It makes me very happy. Like, look at that. Well, that's cool, isn't it? There we go. I mean, I'm easily pleased. Amazing. In terms of the Q&A, if anyone does have any extra questions, you've been really good, actually, Mel, at ticking a few of these off as we're going. We've got a few talking points in the Q&A, so we'll definitely follow through with those. If anyone does have any extra questions, stick them in there. We've got a few minutes left, so we'll jump to them if they come. If not, we'll definitely be prepared for the next session. Mark and Manish in the chat as well, saying thank you. I do like to see a specific name, specific comment. So comment there. Thank you for another great session, Mel and Adam. Really useful. Oh my God, the chat's moving as I'm talking. Really useful, especially as I'm beginning my journey as a data analyst. So yeah, thank you for that comment. David there, great to see you addressing this subject so completely with plenty of good energy and interesting examples. Much appreciated. Rosemary, is this 2 days in a row? Were you on our webinar yesterday, Rosemary? I think you were. That's a great effort. So we did a session yesterday. We've done Humby, so we've had a week of it, man. We've had a week of it. Thanks, Mel and Adam. Really helpful, well delivered. Thanks for the great session. Look forward to the next. Thank you for the session. So thank you all for being such good audience members. We've definitely enjoyed that. In terms of the questions, where to start with this? There is quite a bit of this was perfect. Cool. So Michael, thanks for joining both sessions, Michael. Actually, this was one of the comments in the chat actually last session, and there was quite a bit of back and forth, bit of interaction. So I think I'm going to do my best to just quickly summarise it. I believe this is very much a scenario from within Michael's work within his business, working specifically within retail, and I'm guessing within the building supplies area of retail as well, as much as anything else. And he's calling out product codes. And I think we did briefly touch on this in the session. I know you called it out as a specific example, Adam. But the challenge very much is in Michael's example where, you have a product with the code 5005, have another product with 5050. They're both valid. They're often similar types of products. So, someone could be well within their rights to order them. And I think the thing that he was calling out as well is they have people phoning in to take the orders. People remember the codes that are taking the orders and they bang them in, and it's speed and stuff like that. So I guess at a sort of super high level, where do you start with something like this? It does seem, you call it, what did you call it, Adam? The human condition.
Human condition.
The
yeah.
human condition. That one stuck with me. I'm like, yeah, I've definitely got the human condition. That's for sure. But I guess this is, this is common, and I guess some data quality issues are much harder than others. And again, I think you called out, find the 20% that do most damage and stuff like that. So maybe you're getting a bit niche. But while we're here, what advice would you have for Michael in this type of area?
Yeah, and really appreciate the kind of thoughtful comments, actually, Michael, and giving us that kind of context and the opportunity to kind of reflect on those and give you some good insights back. So yeah, I guess I would say that because they are so similarly entered and they do correlate to real products, that's where we need the separate, additional control on top of that. So I'm not just saying is 5005 or 5050 valid, because the answer is always going to be yes and true in both of those cases. And we can't obviously just say where one equals bricks and the other one doesn't, because they're both for bricks. So we're going to have to introduce another key that makes it unique and that allows us to identify those. Now, whether that's some kind of front end change, I don't know if I skipped over how these are being entered, whether these are being written down or if they're being typed into something, but whether we can enter 5005 and then do a fetch on what the category of 5005 is. And if we see that it's brick size, but we clearly wanted the other one, then we know straight away that there's some kind of mismatch there. Or we would just have a deeper check, like I say, that says, make sure that if it's 5005, it has to be bricks of that particular size, or it's some exception has occurred. So it's really just about layering the conditions beyond just a simple does this equal that, and just trying to cater for some of those edge cases, like you said, where that kind of fuzzy logic is not going to bear out, because it's any fuzzy logic is just going to treat that as one and the same thing.
Perfect, Adam. In terms of this is, again, it's one of the best things about these type of interactive sessions, isn't it? Because it just, I think it gets everybody thinking.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's really nice, we've had 100 people join us today, and you're not alone. Like we need to solve these problems. And the thing that I really enjoyed was you guys have been fantastic at getting to the core of the problem, and calling out solutions within TimeXtender. But you've kind of gone, well, actually there is ways of doing it in Excel, there's ways of doing it, we're here to help, and that really came across in this session. So thank you for that one. I'm going to click answered on your stuff there Michael, for now, but I'm sure you're going to be with us next week as well. So if you want to keep that conversation going, you've probably put some stuff on the Miro board again. I know we'll be shaping things going forward from there. There's a question here from Bianca. Bianca's asking, what if a field becomes mandatory via another action later in time? A phone number is not mandatory until the customer decides to order. That requires sending a text. We cannot flag a missing phone number, but later on, this customer misses a text. So yeah, that sounds again like a scenario that perhaps others will come up with. So how would you approach this type of situation?
I've encountered this before in a similar scenario where a customer wants to pay for their bill via another payment method, and the ERP system would need to have the logic that says, if I want to pay by direct debit, for example, I have to make sure that there are direct debit details entered. We can't just say, oh, they pay by a different method and not actually have their sort code, account number, etc. And so that's really ideally where this change would take place. Yeah, we would say, don't allow this payment method to be changed if we have null values in the following fields. And if we can't get that change in the kind of, because that could be expensive, like we saw in the use case earlier, at least that we would have a near real-time check for that condition, where if someone has been able to enter a different payment method, but we have then added our rules that say, if payment method equals, phone number, what was it? Phone number, then make sure that these fields are already filled out. And we're going to catch that within 24 hours or whatever schedule we set it at. But yeah, we recognize the fact that going to a software vendor and saying we want a custom solution for this edge case, it could be super costly, it's going to be time intensive, and the actual gain for that, it may not be worth it, right? Where you've only got, this is happening once every 50 customers or something. So you have to kind of then weigh up, is it worth doing that? Or are there other measures that we can implement, like the kind of low hanging fruit? And when you've got a tool that you can add these controls to very simply, you just create a rule, leave it to run in the background, and then you'll be notified of these edge cases. So I think that's what my response would be. Mel, do you have anything to add on that, or something different maybe?
No, couldn't have said it any better. Absolutely. Covered it all. Yeah.
What a guy. Hey, and doing this just before you go off on holiday as well,
I know.
Adam. This is the case, isn't it? As we
This
hang
is
up
the case.
webinar,
I'm slamming the lid both on the laptop and my suitcase once this webinar's ended.
Throw the laptop out the window and off you go for some sun. Mate, absolutely love it. And that's covered the questions in the Q&A. I think just a couple of bits I was keen to cover. That there was one question in the chat from Ramon. Ramon's comment actually in the chat, it got caught in there. There's been so many. But the DQ data quality tool, it's nice. Will you explain the license options to TimeXtender's existing users? So we clearly have a customer involved. Maybe for the others that aren't existing users either, perhaps you could just quickly speak to what the options are for people to start working with TimeXtender. And it does look very easy, which is nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, and it's quickly implemented. And again, we did not go much into it, but we have a desktop application and the web view for the business users. You can find, the pricing and the license options on our site, TimeXtender.com page. But it's really made also that you basically can grant the business users access that individually then log into through the web view what you've seen the click through today in a very intuitive field. And then you have the desktop application where you can do all the magic behind the scenes and do some crazy coding. So it's kind of a good way to approach both sides of the table, basically.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we don't really want to be giving business users that kind of desktop feel because it's got controls that are just not relevant to them. So the web view, by splitting the product into two, it gives those business users a nice kind of sanitized area where all of the controls are clearly predefined, so they can't break anything, crucially, but they can have oversight on a nice visual overlay of what are the processes in the business, the controls, and it allows them some functionality within that to create those decisions and those rules and actions accordingly. So yeah.
And the license covers both.
Yeah.
Amazing. I must admit, I've been aware of TimeXtender for several years actually, and you can see you're constantly improving the product as well. Like the UX is looking like really slick now, and it's nice. Not that it wasn't before, but it can be that you're constantly improving it, which is fantastic. And just with the couple of minutes that we've got left, obviously as we're drawing things to a close, we have 2 more sessions. What does that look like? I think the feedback we've had so far is, it's been that interactive piece. We've been shaping it. What are the people at home going to get from joining session 3 and 4? What have we got in store?
So in session 3, what we really wanted to do, really, actually, it was a bit of a last-minute shift. After session 1, we decided to change the format of 2, 3, and 4 because we saw how engaging this audience is and how much they want to be involved. And so what we've decided to do is trying to make it as interactive as possible by taking all of the responses from the Miro boards, the Q&As, the chat, and trying to really shape our future sessions around that and how they fit into our platform. So next week, there's going to be a session on orchestration, which is one of the other features in the TimeXtender Holistic Data Suite. And then on the 4th week, the final week, we have Gunnar, who is the former CEO of Exmon, who we were talking about earlier, the company acquired by TimeXtender. So he's actually the man that wrote a lot of this stuff and knows it inside out. So what we'll be asking for are, with everything that we've covered in the first 3 sessions, what would our lovely audience like to see demonstrated? And we can throw that at him and make him do it live. So yeah, plenty of options to choose from. So everyone, do get your thinking caps on about the kind of things that you'd like to see, given everything that we've talked about so far.
And a little teaser maybe for next week is, that we often see that kind of as an end product of project that we started a data projects, it often lacks kind of a visualization, right? A nice way to just see your data landscape, your packages, to see how up-to-date your data is. So, we have a great way of showing this visualization and just make, everyone aware of the data health. And it's kind of a rounding up the data journey nicely, and will be, part of the story next week.
Amazing. And who are the two presenters? Is it two presenters next week? Who have we got next week?
It's me again and Gia from previous session.
Amazing, from session 1. Fantastic. You're taking a week off, Mel, eh?
Well, I'm not sure yet.
We're going to see. We might see if we can get Mel to make a special appearance with us.
I could tell we've got Mel hooked on this, haven't we? We've got it. Everyone at home, send Mel a message on LinkedIn so that she comes along next week as well. Amazing stuff. The thing that blows my mind, this is free, man. Like, people are joining a course, and like, you guys are doing it all for free, man. So again, my heart was warmed at the start, and it's feeling warmed at the end. And the final one, just to recap, Adam, you seem very happy about throwing some tough questions live in that last session. You quite like this idea, don't you?
Yeah, it's going to be good.
I've not met the final speaker, but I feel like we're going to have everyone stirred up by that final week, aren't we?
Also, he's currently out on a golf course, enjoying himself. So when he comes back, he can come back to
in for a shock. That is what we want. Amazing. Is that you happy with everything for now, Mel? We've covered great session. We've covered everything. Happy to close up with 2 minutes early or something like that. We're bang on time, aren't we? Amazing.
2 minutes of quality time that we can do.
That's it. Another coffee. This is also what I've noticed. Amazing. Well, thank you, everybody. There's some emojis still flying in on the chat. I can tell people at home have enjoyed it as much as I have. Massive thank you to you both, Mel and Adam. Really appreciate you giving up the time. Really appreciate, I called it out at the start, how much you care about this. You mentioned you've reshaped sessions 2, 3, 4 based on feedback. People are, this is absolutely amazing, and I think we're potentially onto something. This is the first time we've done something like this for the community, and it feels really good to be part of. Thank you all for joining us at home, and very much look forward to seeing you next week. So it'd be great if you can make it. We'd love to have you back. See you all then, and until then, enjoy your time, enjoy your week, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.